Klar.
Hello, I'm Geir Isne. I'm a Norwegian living in Oslo, and this is my first unboxing video. So this is the unboxing day. And what I'm gonna unbox today, or my first unboxing, is a Sky-Watcher telescope, a refractor. It is called 150mm f7 Esprit, the top of the line of the Sky-Watcher series. It's a superb telescope. Now, this is the telescope. Here is a lot of boxes, or not a lot, it's five boxes that I need to unbox, and with my equipment. Here is the equipment for the day. Now, I first got to tell you that ever since I was 8 years old, my mother pointed to the stars and said, "You see those 3 stars over there? That's Orion's belt." And from that point, I was hooked on the sky and cosmology and astronomy, and I ended up studying astrophysics at the university. Now, when I was 12, I got my first telescope from my father, and I unboxed it then, but I didn't make a video of it. So that was Christmas in 1978, and I got a small refractor. A refractor telescope is a telescope that only has lenses, no mirrors, and the light goes straight through the telescope. It makes the light more crisp because there is no bouncing of the light in mirrors, etc. So it's a very nice optical design. It's the original design of Galileo Galilei. Now, later, I had this dream of getting a big telescope, and I got a big telescope in 2011, I think it was. It was an 8-inch, it gathers a lot more light, you can see a much more faint object in the sky, but it's a mirror type of telescope that is a very nice design. It's from Meade, it's called LS8. I have it in the shack over in my, on the outside. But still, it cannot be used as a solar telescope. And that is the point with this. I can now use this as a solar telescope because if you bounce the light inside with mirrors and everything, and with sunlight, the sunlight heats up the mirrors and it cracks and it makes it possible to use it as a telescope for solar viewing. Now, this can be used as solar viewing telescope, and also I'm looking at viewing it in a specific bandwidth called hydrogen alpha, so you can see the explosions on the rim of the sun, etc. So this is part of why I'm using this telescope. Now, I'm getting to why I bought the telescope later. It is in coaching people, among other things, and making people make another or get another perspective on life. But let's start unboxing this thing. So I'm going over here, which I think would be the mount of the telescope, because it has a very sturdy mount. It can be used for astrophotography, etc. So I'm going to start doing the unboxing. And look at me as a noob when it comes to unboxing. All the drama and where you cut and how you rip it off and etc. or open etc. is not something I'm used to. So it's going to be a bit raw. And luckily I have my friend Øyvind, who is filming this. He's a great philosopher, by the way. He's starting to become a famous philosopher. And now, this is more. So this is shipped from the US. And here is some advertisement for the various telescopes that Sky-Watcher is making, and this is the 150mm top of the line, their Rolls-Royce telescope. I'm going to put this over here. And as you can see, this is the telescope. And some more information about it. So, let's see how this goes. Maybe this is not the mount, actually. Maybe this is the telescope. Okay, if this is the telescope, I need to put it down. Like this, I guess. god! This is like... holy crap, this is heavy. And this is something to do with... it's more heavy because I broke 3 ribs a couple of weeks ago on a bicycle accident. Oh. Let's see. I don't know if this is gonna make good video or not, but I'm trying to get this telescope out of there. Oh, here it is. Removing box and putting this on here. Woo! This is Christmas. This is like freaking crazy. Okay, let's see. Am I on the right? This might not be. Yes. How do we open this? It is the telescope. It is the telescope! Oh my god! Oh my god! Holy crap, this is heavy. I'm gonna sit down here and massage this baby, breastfeed it, uncover it. This is so freaking big. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I'm gonna open this. This is to put it on the mount, to make it sturdy on the mount. And take off these, just to take off the paper. There is a warning label that says, oh, let's see. Do not look at the sun through this telescope. Well, you can, but you have to have the right filters. And that's the last box over there. This is so incredible. I'm going to remove all these small paper pieces later. I'm going to close this again. I can already feel how sturdy and how well made this is. This is really heavy. And the screws and everything are heavy and it is massive. This is just so massive. I don't actually remember the weight of this, but it's quite heavy. It is. Heavy, heavy, heavy. And this goes on top of the mount, and you look in here, this is where you put the ocular. The oculars, I will show you later, is something that defines how much magnification you can have and what you view actually, how wide you view things, etc. But the main thing is about the magnification, and this is where the light is gathered. This is the lens of the telescope. Let's see if we can... just briefly, it's dust in here, so I don't want to... This is the actual lens. And it gathers the light in here, and the wider the opening, the diameter of this telescope, determines how much light it can gather. This is how much bigger your pupil is going to get, which means you can see fainter objects when this diameter of the opening is bigger. So the bigger the opening, the more you can see. It's not about the magnification, because most of the stuff that is in the sky is actually quite big, but it's so faint that you can't see it. Now, if you've been on a very dark place, on top of the mountain maybe, you can see a little smudge right in the constellation of Andromeda, between Perseus and Pegasus. There's a little smudge in the sky. That's a galaxy. It's actually quite big in the sky, but it's so faint that you can only see it if it's pitch black dark and it's high up, preferably on a mountain. Then you can see it. Now, through this telescope, you can see it not only as a smudge, but you can start to see spiral arms in that galaxy, because it's 2.3 million light years away. So it's very, very faint. So you need a big telescope in order to see it correctly, or you can see the definition of the spiral arms, etc. And for the magnification, you usually need that only for small objects. Like if you look at planet like Pluto, maybe not Pluto because you won't see much, but if you look at Neptune, Uranus, look at Uranus. If you look at Saturn, if you look at Jupiter, you can crank up the magnification and you can see more detail on the planet. Also on the moon, of course, and on the sun. So that's where the magnification comes in. But mainly it's about the opening of the telescope, and it's about the optical quality. And this is like the Rolls Royce. This is a fabulous telescope. So I'm going to put this down here again. Into the box you go. Like there. And here we can see some other... This is ocular. This is an eyepiece. And this is what you put at the end of the telescope to define the magnification. Let's see if we can get this open. Here we go. And this is also a very nice eyepiece. You can see the lens in here, and there's an eye cap, so you put your eye into it and you can look through, take off this cap, add it to the end of the telescope, and you will be able to see more detail. You always have to have an ocular at the end, because you have to have some kind of correcting the light into your eye. And basically this telescope will run at a minimum maybe of 30-40 times in magnification. So it will magnify no matter what you do. But it can crank it up to more than 500 times in magnification if you need to see real fine details on Saturn, Pluto, or some split double stars that are really close, etc. So, and there are some other small pieces here, like this diagonal. Instead of having to look like this when you look into the telescope, you can just add this diagonal and you look down into it and you see what comes through. So that's one thing. And this thing here is the seeker, a tiny telescope that goes on top of this one, so that this shows a wider view, so you can zoom in by finding the right place where you're looking, and then you can look through the bigger telescope to see exactly what is in the middle of this little beauty. So this is a small guide telescope, or a finder telescope. And this thing is just an adapter. So, and this is a little ring adapter thing. I have to figure out which goes where. And some other empty spaces to put more oculars, etc. So that's the beauty. Now let's get to the other parts. Just got to tell you that the reason why we bought this telescope is that I do a lot of coaching of top athletes, of artists on stage, or business executives, or just average man off the street or kids that are in trouble in life, you know, trying to hurt themselves or not live any longer, etc. So what I do when I coach is predominantly to try to make people understand that life is not so serious, that you can get new perspectives on life and the problems that you have. And sometimes it's enough to tell people just to knock it off. If they have problems, they do drama in life and they create all kinds of shit in their lives, I can just say, okay, so stop that, just stop it. Now some people respond to that and they just stop it, which is the easy way of handling a problem, obviously. Now sometimes that's not enough, or more often it's not enough. I had to take people out and walk for a while, or go into the woods, look at the ducks in the pond, and look at stuff to get them to see a new, different perspective on life, not to be so self-centered and submerged in their own drama. Now, often that is not even enough, and you have to get them out there to really get the new perspective on life. And that is where the telescope comes in. Because when I was a young kid, I had my small telescope, my 60mm refractor from Fujinon that my father gave to me when I was 12. Now, when I thought I had a problem, like a girlfriend problem, when I was like 16, I was madly in love with a girl, and I was could never muster up the energy or the courage to ask any girl. That was off bounds. That was not me. But when she got together with somebody else, I got into heartbroken, and I thought I had a big problem. I took out my telescope, started looking at the stars. You know, the moon is 1 light second away. So it takes the light 1 second to travel from the moon, reflected off from the sun, back to Earth. Now, the sun takes some 8 minutes for the light to travel from the sun to us. And Pluto, the furthest, actually it was a planet, it used to be a planet, now it's a dwarf planet, it's demoted, poor Pluto. It takes about 5 and some hours for the light to go from Pluto to the Earth. Now look at the closest star, it takes 4 years. And then Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, takes 8 years for the light to go from Sirius to here. And the further away you look, the further or the more time it takes for light to come here, obviously. So many of the stars that we see in the sky are hundreds of light years away, take light hundreds of years to get here. Now, if you look outside our galaxy, you can see the smudge I talked about, the Andromeda galaxy, which is 2.4 million light years away. It's a vast amount of space between our galaxy and that galaxy, of empty space predominantly. Our galaxy harbors some 200 to 400 billion stars, and it's about 100,000 light years across. And then there's 2.3 million light years to Andromeda galaxy. So I was looking through my telescope, looking at the Andromeda galaxy, and envisioning this light traveling for 2.4 million years. We see it as it was 2.4 million years ago. So it could be gone now, for all that we know. Now, I looked at that and I thought, okay, so that's 2.4 million light years away. And in this galaxy here, which is harboring 200 to 400 billion stars, there is this insignificant star, a total mainstream, main sequence star, in the outskirts of the galaxy, inside the spiral arm, a completely insignificant place that someone calls the Sun. It has, as most other stars that we know, a planet system. There's planets around it. And the third of that planet is something somebody calls the Earth. And on this Earth there is an area called Europe. And on this Europe area there is a so-called kingdom, which is a strange concept in itself, called Norway. And in this Norway there is a city, a lump of people living together, which is called Oslo. And in this Oslo there is a guy pointing out with a telescope, and he thinks he has a freaking big problem with a girlfriend. Now that gives a person a different perspective on his problems and on the magnitude. You know, you will be gone in a blink of an eye in a cosmic scale. There is no imagining possibility that you could have any significant problem in your life at all. So getting this perspective through looking at a telescope, seeing how big and vast and huge the universe is, brings your own problems down to a scale where it's handleable. You can handle it, it's more manageable, because they are not as big as it was before you started looking through a telescope. So that's one of the reasons why we bought this. So, more unboxing. I feel slightly violent with this knife. instruction manual for the mount. Now we're talking mount. The thing that the telescope will stand on. And here is the head of the mount, the main part of the mount. And this is a motorized mount that, you know, the Earth is already always revolving around itself. So it looks like the sky is moving just because the Earth is turning around. Sorry, flat earthers, you're out on this one. So, and to counteract that motion of the Earth, we need a telescope that moves opposite of the Earth's rotation to keep the stars still in this telescope. And this is a perfectly nice, very fine tracking mount that is completely computerized. And it is freaking heavy! It is so heavy! Whew. Now people who own this telescope say, no, it's not that heavy. Well, I'm weak. This is a very, very fine telescope mount that I will assemble, not in this video because it's going to take too much time, but it is a very precise instrument. I'm going to put it here in the sofa. Just lie there for a while. And now it has some additional stuff here. And this one is a hand controller, because you can use this to say, I want to see Jupiter. And when this is correctly aligned to the right stars in the sky, etc., you can just say Jupiter, and it will go zzz, zzz, Jupiter. So this is the hand controller, and this is some cords to it, and this is some equipment to assemble the mount. And there is some more stuff here. I have no idea what this is. There are some screws and stuff, probably to mount the telescope on the mount, or put the legs, because this has no legs now. This is just the main part of the mount that turns the telescopes and point it to the right direction. Now we're going to get to the legs later. So, removing this and attacking the next box. My OCD is shining through. I have to clean everything before I go on. So, here is something else, no clue what this is. What is this thing? Okay. Okay. A box inside a box. The Russian part of the telescope. Is this? Ah! Aha! I know what this is. This is the Sky-Watcher battery for battery operation of the telescope. Because if I can take the telescope away from any main electricity, then I have to use this. This is basically a car battery, but also with lights and red light, not to damage your night vision, and also normal lights. So this can be used out in the woods and to use the telescope in remote places. Excellent. So, I put that there. So, now we're getting to the legs. this. I will tell you about later. Okay, there is some plastic I need to remove. Bear with me on this one. I can remove the rest of that plastic later. So this is the part of the telescope that hits the ground. These are the legs. And then I'll put the big mount, this part, up on this one, and the telescope goes on top of that. And this is also, by the feel of it, very sturdy. It looks like a really, really well-made, high-quality mount. So everything I've seen so far has very high quality. And I know when you read the reviews on the internet, you will see that Sky-Watcher has a good reputation. Now, if you look at their top-of-the-line Rolls-Royce telescope, which is this one, you would expect it to have high quality, obviously, and it has. It is really sturdy, heavy, well made. You know, every little part seems very high quality. So this is now legs. As I said, I will assemble this later. Just making sure there is no other part in here. Yep. More parts. More parts. We can use this here maybe. These are counterweights because the telescope, when it stands on the mount, it will weigh a lot on one end, and to make the motion smooth and balanced, you need counterbalances to the telescope's weight on this side. So that's a counterbalance. Okay, and the mountain of rubbish over there. And here I guess is another counterweight. There should be two of them. And it is. You can use this to push weights and become stronger than I am. So, that's it for this. Now, the beauty of the telescope, the mount, even the battery, everything is now in display. Now, the last part is what makes this also a solar telescope. And this I bought from Denmark, from a guy named Mogens. And it is on astroshop.eu. And this is the solar filter. So let me get my knife. And then let's unbox this one as well. That was a little bit trickier. Let's see how this goes. Let's try. This was at least well packaged. Oh, come on. Like there. Small pieces of, I don't know what to call it, but stuff I don't want to have all over my floor, so I'm gonna piece by piece take this out. Astro Optics is called the company. And what do I have here? this is part of what is the solar filter, because if you're going to view the sun through this telescope, if you actually looked at the sun and without any filters, you would become blind in the blink of an eye. You would be irreversibly blinded, and that's it. So you have to have a filter in the front to see it in white light, but to see it in this very specific light called hydrogen alpha, where you can see the explosions on the prominences on the sun's rim, you will have to have something called a hydrogen alpha filter at the end of the telescope. So let's see what we have here. Here is the Daystar Quark hydrogen alpha filter. This is what goes at the end. This is what makes you see the explosions on the rim of the sun. Let's see. How do I do this? I move this down here, and I move this over here, and cables, and cute little solar glasses that you put on to view the sun when you see a solar eclipse or just otherwise. Now it's starting to become new solar spots on the sun, like cold areas which looks small dark spots on the sun. It was a period of time, many years now, that has been very quiet when it comes to solar spots. Now it's possible to say solar spots again, and maybe you can see them with the naked eye if they are big enough, but through the telescope they look really nice. So this is just for viewing with your own eyes. And this is some advertisement brochures from Daystar. They make different filters to see the sun through different wavelengths, and then you can see different parts of the sun or different parts of the atmosphere in the sun. Let's just find out what this is. Stuff. What the heck is this? This is to power it. And you have various sockets for various areas like England and Norway and the US, etc. Now this is the actual telescope filter. Being unscrewed. And this is a Rolls-Royce piece here from Daystar. And this is the actual thing you put in the end of the telescope, like a normal eyepiece or ocular, and then you look through here and you will see the explosions and the various parts of the sun, which you cannot see if you just look through in normal light. You have to sift out all the light except one little wavelength called hydrogen alpha wavelength. And it is powered so that and it shows when it's safe to view through it, etc. So this is what makes this also a solar telescope. So I'm going to put this down into its house again. Okay, now what else do we have in this box here? We have something else. What is this? This is a converter from a specific size of an eyepiece down to another size. Okay. What is this? This is power bank. Listen, a power bank as well. Okay, cool. This is to also power the Daystar solar filter when I'm out in the outskirts. Okay, but there's more here. There is more. And here we have something called I don't remember exactly what it's called, but it's a filter that you put at at the opening of the telescope to reduce the heat, because when it's such a big telescope, it gathers such an amount of light that it heats up the interior of the telescope, and you don't want that. So this is a blocking filter that blocks out some of the heat so that it's safer, or that it is safe for the telescope to use it as a solar telescope. And here, this is I've never seen anything like this before, because I've never had a filter or a telescope that is in need of such a filter. But I'm actually not going to unpack it because it becomes dusty. But this is what you put at the end of the telescope, or the opening of the telescope, to reduce the heat inside, so that you can safely use the hydrogen alpha filter so that it does not heat up. So this is important for such a big telescope. So we put this over here. And let's see if there is anything more in this box of mysteries. No, that is it. Okay, I guess that concludes the unboxing. This is it. This is a dream come true. And now I will get people to come here and get a new perspective on life. It's part and parcel of coaching people and making the world a better place, one person at a time. And there's also for enjoyment, of course, for myself and for others, to look at the night sky and also the sun through this hydrogen alpha filter. So this is it. And now what I will do in the future, I will assemble a telescope and I will start posting videos where I actually use the telescope. And I will eventually get to astrophotography and start doing photographs of the sun and the night sky through this telescope. So that's it for now. Tune in on isene.com, isene.com, to see what else I'm doing, and follow and track the telescope adventure. So bye for now.